You're listening to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast with holistic entrepreneurs Mandi Rose and Kathleen Hupp. Tune in each Wednesday to discuss holistic approaches to a happier, more fulfilling life and glittery distractions from the mundane. Nothing is off limits in this series, so grab your glass of champagne or your shot of wheatgrass and prepare for complete and fabulous chaos.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Wheatgrass and Champagne. Hi, Kathleen.
Hey, girl.
How are you?
I'm good. How was your week?
It's been good. A few fun doctor's appointments. I've been starting ozone therapy, which is so cool. Have you ever heard of it or done it?
No, but I saw your Instagram story. Is that the one that they injected into your ear?
Yeah. So we're actually So for those of you who don't know what ozone therapy is, it's they use oxygen, add an extra molecule to it. So it's O3. It's just pure oxygen. And they inject it into your body. And the reason for that is pathogenic material like parasites and viruses, bacteria, cancer even can't live in an oxygenated environment.
Right.
And so our theory in holistic medicine is to make sure the body is oxygenated. And if you think about when we're breathing in oxygen and then we're expelling carbon dioxide. And so our cells love oxygen.
Yeah.
And so the bad guys don't. And, eating plant food and lots of greens and chlorophyll and stuff will help assist in the oxygenation. But when you're doing it through either an IV or through like ozone therapy, you just like pump in all this oxygen. So we're starting really, really slow with my doctor. She just put it in my ears. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see me like randomly post it. But she just puts it like with like a needle with a cotton swab at the end of it right into my ears. And then next week we're going to do ears and nose because we're trying to go slow because it's like, you don't want to nuke the body, right? You want to drop a bomb and kill all these guys. And now you're like left with a bunch of mess.
To flush out and all that. To
flush out and detox. So we're just going to go really slowly. And then eventually our goal is to get it into an IV. So what they do is they take your blood and then they oxygenate your blood, put the oxygen right into it, and then they re-inject you.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool.
I was always wondering how that works because I've heard that, like guys who use steroids, if there's an air bubble in the syringe, like it can actually be deadly.
Oh yeah.
So I was always wondering like
that's different.
how like oxygen therapy works. I was like, how do they not kill you?
It's totally different. So they oxygenate the blood, the blood cells.
Gotcha.
Not just...
And then put the blood back in.
Yeah. They don't just take like a syringe of air and like pump it into you.
Here we go.
Yeah, no.
Hope this works.
It's way more therapeutic than that. So that's been my week. So I'm kind of detoxing a little. I did it on Monday. So it's only been like 24 hours.
So when you did it, did you feel like a helium balloon? Like, were you kind of like lightheaded or anything?
No, you don't really feel anything in the moment at all, which is kind of cool. It kind of just like works over time because essentially your body wants oxygen and craves it. So you're not really going to feel any effects of it. What you do feel is the effects of all the pathogenic material dying. And so it's like the Herxheimer reaction, when you're like having those detoxy symptoms. So within 48 hours, the oxygen has starved out some of the bad guys and now they're decomposing and waiting for me to flush them out. So I just try to stay vigilant on drinking water and, making sure I'm getting my green drink every day and lots of antioxidant foods and supporting the liver and sweating and all the things we talk about with detoxing. But yeah, so I'm expecting tomorrow to be a little detoxy. It's just like headache and fatigue and
sluggish things.
Yeah. And then they had me incorporate something called cell food. Girl, this stuff is so intense. The serving size is 8 drops 3 times a day. Okay. I started with 3 because I'm a pansy when it comes to anything. I'm so sensitive. 3 drops. And I literally within 20 minutes was almost hallucinating. Like I was so dizzy. I couldn't stand up. I literally felt like I was hallucinating. It was so potent. And it's just like pure oxygen to the cells.
And what's it called? Cell food?
Cell food.
And it's literally just oxygen?
It's got some like different mineral components to it. You can read some crazy reviews on it, but they're not accurate at all. It helps so many people, but it was intense. So my doctor's like, how would start with 1 drop? I'm like, oh, that sounds so weak. But yeah, 3. It like makes your cells like just bounce off each other. They like get so excited because they're filled with oxygen and they just like bounce everywhere. And it's kind of what you feel like. You feel like you're hallucinating.
Yeah.
So that's been my week.
Nice. All this healing hippy dippy stuff.
It's good stuff. I'm like feeling better, but then, you have those slumps with detox and you just push through, and then the next 4 or 5 days you feel really good and you're ready for the next round of detoxing. And hopefully soon I'll be healthier than I've ever been in my whole life.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you've been through this on this healing journey for a few months now. And so that the part of it requiring you to need these treatments, that part sucks.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're going to be a guru in the next week or two because you have tried every natural homeopathic thing out there.
Yeah. And it like really helps me sympathize with my clients, when I'm health coaching them. I now have learned so many different modalities that I learned about, but I didn't experience for myself. And also, helping people relate to how anxiety can be gut health related, because I've experienced it, and how you can start really slow and you feel like, nothing's working, but eventually something will click. So it makes me more empathetic and I can understand better. So everything happens for a reason.
That's true.
Yeah. So
Stay tuned. She's writing a book about all the treatments she's done.
I might. You never know, guys. I do want to start my YouTube channel though, because then I can dive into way more detail. So stay tuned. I'll let you guys know when that happens.
Yeah, do it.
Yay. So how's your week been? You've been productive.
Oh my gosh, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the podcast, but balancing that with full-time work.
I like that. Are you still taking your weekends to yourself to decompress? Have you been good about that?
I've been so good about it to a fault.
I love it.
Turning my phone off, ignoring people. I still love everybody, but just, laying on the couch.
Yeah.
Cleaning the house, just doing whatever.
Perfect.
Just to decompress,
re-energize.
Yes. But I've finally gotten back into a routine where I feel like my energy levels are back up to their normal. Mm-hmm. So now I can start, living a little more on the weekends.
Yay, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, look at us both getting healthier and happier.
I know. One step at a time.
I love it. So I heard the craziest news today about, was it Forbes?
Yes. Is it about Kylie Jenner?
Yes. Did you see that too?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Youngest billionaire at the age of 21.
And it's so crazy, right? Because people say like, no, she was like given this life, but she didn't have to go out and create a business. Like she could have just lived this glamorous life and traveled and didn't care, but she totally worked for that. I mean, you have to show up to meetings. You have to fly places. Like everything she did for promotion is work.
I know. Well, that whole family, everyone can say or everyone does say, I hear it all the time that this family, they just are famous for doing nothing.
Right.
But it's not true. Like, even though it's a lot of appearance based, like magazines, photo shoots, TV appearances, those are all time obligations.
Yeah.
They're showing up. They're not calling in. They're doing the effort. Like they are working. It's just a different form.
And a lot of times they're committed to events months in advance. Mm-hmm. You don't know if you're going to feel good on that date in 3 months. You know, you're not going to know what drama is going on in your life then. And you go, you know, and that's pretty impressive. Because I know when I feel like crap, I call into work and I'm just like, I'm calling in. But if it's like a $100,000 obligation, like you're going.
Yeah, you are committed.
So yeah, I applaud her. I think it's great. Mm-hmm. And it's inspiring.
Hard work and a good product and just good marketing. That's one thing that family is bomb at is the marketing.
Attraction marketing is huge.
Yeah.
And I hope that's like inspiration too to anyone that's listening that's like younger, in like your teens or early 20s. You don't have to wait until later in life to be successful. I mean, you can literally use social media. You can use all these platforms to, make your own brand, your own business, and if you make one and it's fun for a couple of years and it's no longer appealing, that's okay. You'll switch gears when you're ready to. But, I think a lot of us wait until we're ready, or I have to go to school and then I'll be able to be successful. And it's like, no, girl.
Yeah.
She's 21 years old. You can do the damn thing too. Like
you can do it.
She had the same hours in the days you have, like the same resources as far as Googling anything, to build a business. Podcasts are great. So
yeah, anything you want to learn is at your fingertips now more than ever.
Yeah. So you can envy her or you can use her as inspo and do the damn thing right alongside of her.
Yep. Go for it. Go get your billion.
Yes. And that leads right into our guest for today. She was such an inspiration. You guys are going to love this episode.
Yes. So she joined us today in studio live, hailing from Paris, France. She invented the miniskirt. She designed the famous red dress that Julia Roberts wore in the movie Pretty Woman. And she has styled some of the most iconic women, including Whitney Houston, Elizabeth Taylor, Oprah, Sarah Jessica Parker, and so many more. People magazine named her Queen of the Strapless Dress for one of the dresses that she coined. She's dominated the fashion world, and now she divides her time between Paris, New York, and a 40-acre farm where she meditates with the sun each morning and tends to her chickens. Here to dish all the secrets to happiness, well-being, romance, and balance, she's Vicky Tiel. Okay, so Vicky, let's start by going through your Paris days. You were a designer. You kind of invented so many pieces of clothing that we still see in fashion trends today. You invented the mini skirt. You invented several other pieces. So
the wrap dress.
The wrap dress.
Yes.
And the mummy dress, I believe.
The mummy dress. The wrap dress was 1968. And some other designer claims it, but she's kind of given up on that. HSN announces that I started it because I have photos of it in magazines in 1968, but it was in a movie in 1967.
Oh,
so
wow.
The fitted waist wrap dress was definitely a big hit.
Okay, so walk us through a little bit of your fashion journey as a designer.
I went to school in Parsons, in New York, from 1961 to 1964, and I seriously recommend anybody who wants to be a designer to go to the school. But if they tell you that you're terrible and that you have no hope of being successful, then you really should be thrilled because you're the top. Because the teachers can't see the future. They're stuck in the present, and if you create something new, they're not going to understand it. So the worst students generally are the best achievers, and the prize-winning students of the schools are generally not too well. The girl who was our number one student, when she failed in 7th Avenue, she killed herself.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
really triste, c'est tragique. Yeah.
Très tragique.
So going to fashion school is great, and you learn to, for me it was great because I met my partner, Mia Fonsegreaves, and the two of us decided to go to Paris. We were in New York wearing our creation, the mini dress, and nobody had worn clothes to mid-thigh. It was 1961, and we were maybe 10 inches above anybody else. We were also braless. We both had large boobs, and we were completely braless.
Love it.
And see-through.
Yeah.
And we generally went with guys who had motorcycles. So
You were blazing trails and
drive up,
trends.
drive long hair and little caps that were made out of flower prints that would match the flower print dresses.
Oh, wow.
So we had a good time in school, but the teachers didn't understand, and we went to Paris. And wearing clothes like that in Paris, we were immediately photographed and discovered and put in many magazines. And we had a fashion show. Upon arriving, we were put into a haute couture fashion show, and we made all the press. And in 4 or 5 months of arriving, we were hired to do the costumes of a movie. That was our first job, and we asked for single screen credit. So we got our own name up on the screen. We got drivers, and it's been a lot of fun since.
And
but what I do tell the students or the young people who want to be fashion designers, you've got to sew, you've got to make your own clothing. If you're a woman, if you're a man, you have to find a woman that's going to be wearing your own clothing, and you have to make it yourself and understand how to sew. That's a principle.
Really from the foundation.
It has to be the real deal instead of just being fabulous and fun and creative and wearing other people's things that make you look fabulous. You have to wear your own creations.
Makes it authentic too.
Yeah.
Like you can
Being
put your
authentic.
love into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you designed costumes for a few movies.
I did 16 movies between 1964 and 1972. And in 1971, Mia, my partner, left me. We had worked with Louis Farreau. He had given us his haute couture atelier, and we were haute couture. The haute couture means that you're making everything by hand with sewers who have trained in the couture industry in France. And currently today, with the death of Karl Lagerfeld, who was before me, a German me, an American. It's the first time an American. I'm the longest designer in France.
The
And
longest
that's
designer.
The longest designer, 55 years.
Meaning from when you started your design career to now, like you were the longest standing fashion
longest
designer
in France. Yeah,
That's amazing.
and an American. The first time it's an American.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And the first, obviously the longest
Female.
of everyone, so female as well.
Female is wrong, but more so the idea that it's an American.
Oh, that's amazing.
Carl was German, and the designer after is Spanish. So very few. Yves Saint Laurent was before us, and he was from North Africa. So in French, actually from France, not too many,
That's awesome. And your career began when you were 20?
20 years old, yes.
I mean, I was still in school trying to find myself when I was 20.
I had started sewing at 12. Wow. And I recommend to women out there, if you really are 10, 12, 15 listening to this podcast, you've got to do it. There's a Nike says, just do it. You've got to do it. You want to be a designer? Well, do it. Go make your own clothes, sell them, make clothes to your friends, the articles that you're wearing, create, buy fabrics, find interesting things, sew it, sell it, and just you have to work.
Yeah.
It's not a place where you can be a phony in fashion.
Right.
It doesn't last long. A phony, maybe a year or two, you know somebody or whatever. It's the real thing is you're making a product, you're going to sell it or you're not going to stay.
And it has to be a unique product, not a ripoff of someone
Clothing is mean someone has to put it on and wear it.
Yeah. Want to. Someone has to want to.
Exactly. So, okay, being such a high fashion designer in Paris, I'm sure you went to all of the best parties, had the fanciest lifestyle, and now you're back. You divide your time between Paris and a 40-acre farm where you meditate and raise chickens. And tell us about that. Tell us about like the polar opposites.
The opposite. Well, I was blessed to have gone to Paris and gone immediately picked up by Elizabeth Taylor. So she was working on a movie opposite my movie. We were in the same studio in France, and she was wearing long suits to her knee, and I was immediately hired by her to dress her. And then she became my backer, and we opened a shop in 1968 together, and we stayed close, and I dressed her for 20 some years after that. Having such a woman, being with the most famous woman in the world for 20 years, put me into a certain world, a certain type of society and a world. And luckily it was Elizabeth and not some other actress who was a snob. Elizabeth was a normal, down-to-earth, lovely, beautiful person. And she taught me that you can be the most famous person in the world, but you've got to be real and down-to-earth. And that's why she was so loved, was that it came across how real she was.
Yeah.
So I had that life for 20-some years, and part of our life was that after her marriage to Richard Burton and my marriage to her makeup man, we both went through our young guy flings.
Gosh, you've lived many lives.
Yeah. Right. She has.
I'm like, this is good.
Our young life flings was that we had both been partying, and our favorite drink was Dom Perignon champagne. We liked to have it as a mimosa, and we never drank hard liquor like the boys did. We were both champagne girls.
Yes.
And fine wines with our dinners. We had the 5 Grand Cru, and basically that was it. That was the 5 Grand Cru. I think today each bottle is 5,000, but 10,000, I don't know. But we had those shipped wherever we went, so we could
to the
always
hotel
have
room.
the 5 Grand Cru, mostly Rothschild, 61 and 64. So we had a fancy lifestyle, and that really exploded as we aged, and we had to both stop that. And in stopping that for Elizabeth, she met a young guy who had a motorcycle, and she had fun. And I met a young fisherman in Key West, and I divorced my first husband, Elizabeth, and Elvis's makeup man, to marry the young fisherman.
Wow.
And the fisherman was barefoot. He didn't wear clothes. He was just in shorts in Key West, and his fishing boat. And I had a different lifestyle. And I really have been blessed to have the two lifestyles, fancy, very fancy, and not so fancy, and just down to earth.
Right.
Down to earth led me to, I think part of his life was also he was very spiritual, and He was a person who loved animals and loved food and growing food and being natural. So it led me to a more spiritual life and meditating. And I couldn't meditate too well in Key West. It was hard. I had a beachfront home as well as my Paris apartment. I find a wonderful place. I tell everybody, if you want to have a great, great meditation, if you want to really connect to God and the higher power, best place in the world is Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Notre Dame, you're in Notre Dame, and it's just fabulous. The Great Pyramids in Egypt, when you go there, when you go to a place where people have meditated for a long time, I found my farm. It's crazy. It was a Indian reservation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Blackwater River was where the Indians were, and exactly where my home was an Indian reservation. Then it was the baptismal hole of the little oak church next door. Down the road, it was a little called the Red Oak Church, and they baptized people there because it was the Indian reservation. So it's a spiritual spot, and I found it to be a great meditation spot, and we built a home there.
Wow.
You can probably feel that good aura.
Oh my
around
God!
the home.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and people say, "How can you leave Paris?" And I say, "How can you not be in Paris all the time?" And I say, "I was in Paris for 25 years." But I have a Paris in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, your own private Paris.
Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. And I work there as an artist. I work there writing books now. I work there drawing. And my husband has grown all kinds of foods, and we raise our chickens. And we have 3 chicken houses. The chickens have their own air conditioning. They have their own heaters.
Cute.
They have their own foods, and they have their own salads and things like that.
The chickens are living the Paris life.
Gourmet entree salads
Chickens
every
are in
day.
Paris.
Do they wear little berets?
They're wonderful. And often when I feed the chickens, I have photos of me, but I wear vintage French outfits from the turn of the century.
Beautiful.
And I go in with these beautiful little white lace outfits and baskets. And
I love it. It's a dream.
and I sit there and I have spots that I sit with the chickens and that I can be with them and connect to them. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, they're everybody has a name. And in one chicken house, the master of the house was Donald Trump. I had Donald with all his wives, all his daughters and sons.
That is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Does he tweet a lot?
No, Donald tweeted, and
The chicken tweet.
he passed after only a few years, but he had a son, and he's black, so we have the master of the house now is Black Donald.
That is
Oh my
so
gosh,
cute.
that's great.
I dress the Trump wives, and I have a picture of, in my new book that's going to be coming out next, I have a drawing of Ivana Trump, who I dressed for 20 years. She helped me launch my perfume, and she's been a wonderful client. And then Melania, the new wife, she has copied Ivana's dress, the famous dress. 25 years later, she's wearing
Wow.
She's wearing the
Oh,
copy of the
no.
famous dress that Ivana wore almost all the time when she threw parties, was my mummy dress in satin
Yeah.
with ruffles on the bottom. And I have a picture of Melania in the book, and she's wearing it too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she not only got the husband, but she got the dress.
She's like, anything you did, I will redo. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So how many chickens do you have?
25 to 30.
Okay.
And they make babies, but we don't kill them, of course, because they're our family, but we eat their eggs. And once you're eating fresh eggs, I give it to my neighbors, as the lady looks after the property and mows the lawn. Her children mow the lawn. They all get the fresh eggs too. So I'm just not only giving the eggs to myself, but the neighbors get the fresh eggs too.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
More
the
of
way
that.
to do
Once you have your own fresh eggs and you have your own farm, and you get up in the morning and you call your chickens and you say hello to them, and they all come over and and then you get the eggs in your basket, in pretty basket. I have ribbons on my basket, put my eggs in the basket, go to the house and set the eggs up. And it's just a fabulous feeling. It's just as fabulous as selling a $20,000 dress. You know,
Really?
really,
Amazing.
yeah.
Same gratification.
Yeah, it's just being happy.
Yeah.
But what I do write about, and that is the most important thing, is that and in this new book, The Absolute Woman, it's all about feminine power. This book is about being happy. And that's what I want to teach is happiness. That to make choices in life. And the most important choice I tell everybody is follow your dreams. I did. I followed my dreams. I did a job I wanted to do. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to succeed. And I worked hard, very, very hard. I did everything that I had to do to make it successful. But I followed my dreams. So that's the number one thing. And the second most important thing I talk in this book, and this is for everybody, not artists, but just everybody, do not dance with crazies.
Those are some pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, that is so perfect.
Yeah. When people are mean to you, especially in the fashion business, in the arts, but in any job, in a hospital, my husband he goes at the fishing boats, and the guys they also do oil rigs, or they bringing men out to the rigs. Sometimes the fishermen, the captains will do that. There's always somebody fighting with somebody else and somebody mad at somebody else. And I tell everybody, and this is the expression I learned from Elizabeth, but in the movie business, you can't be more mean actors and actresses. Elizabeth did something. When someone said something mean to her, she'd do this. And roll her eyes and smile.
Just close lips,
everybody,
smile.
Close your lips, roll her eyes, and just walk and move on. She never danced.
Yeah.
And the rolling of the eye, you can practice it in front of a mirror of how you roll your eye for the crazy. But for little children with bullying and all that, teach the little 10-year-olds and the 5-year-olds to don't dance. If you don't attach to a feeling, if your husband, says something, how many husbands are going to say, and how many wives are going to say to husbands, my husband will say something which could hurt me. I'm not attached. I don't attach to anything. I'm always trying to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the most important lesson, those two, follow your dreams and don't dance with crazies. The last thing that you had mentioned when we talked before was to do no sex for shoes. And that's something for women. You have to make your own money today, ladies. Make your own money and buy your own shoes.
Yes.
Now, my career in fashion has been for 55 years. I have never had a bank give me a penny.
Whoa.
Nothing.
Not even when you had a boutique in Paris?
No. I've had it all my life. I still have the store there. I have pop-ups in there now. No. I've always made my own money, and that's it. No man, no husband, nobody. I don't want anybody to give me money. I want to sell, take my money, spend 85% of it, save 15 or 10%, put it in the bank, don't use it, sell, count up what I have left over, and I've never had a backer.
That's amazing. And you say that's one of the keys to a happy relationship, right?
Yes.
The woman not being dependent financially on the man.
Yes. Actually, it doesn't matter who makes the more money. I'm never going to find a man that's going to make more money than me. Don't go with really rich millionaires because they're bossy.
Yeah.
I don't like that rich
the money
man.
goes straight to their head.
Right. And I've always found men that don't make as much money as I do. And it doesn't matter. All that matters is that I'm happy and that someone's nice and a nice person, and that they love animals, and that they love to cook and know the difference of a good tomato and a bad tomato.
The things that matter.
Survival skills.
Yeah. They're kind and honest.
I've had 2 husbands, both cook. I think that's an important thing for a husband, is that he knows how to cook.
Ooh, yes.
I agree.
That's a good trait.
Because I don't know how.
I don't either. I'm kind of reckless.
I'm kind of like
Husband
throw it
has to
together in
know
a
how
pot
to
and call it a meal.
When did that change in the history line that women forgot how to cook?
Yeah. It's actually in this book, I write in The Absolute Woman, women ruled Earth for 35,000 years BC. 35,000 BC. And they stopped ruling Earth at 2000 BC. Why did they stop at 2000 BC? What happened in 2000 BC? Besides dogs and all the in villages.
I don't know.
Religion. Religion. And having religion came into the picture, and they moved in communities, started living in communities, and this God and religion. And what did the religions tell the women? That let the man run the show.
Yeah, take a back seat.
Before, when we were in the cave, a guy would go out and say, bring me back food. to the guy. You know,
Give them orders. You go get the food and don't come home until you got it.
And you better come back. And if they don't come back, we get another man to go out and get food.
Yeah.
And they build us the tents and all that. And we're the hearth. We're the mother. We're the grandmother sitting around the fireplace. So for 35,000 years, and who knows how many more, women were ruling Earth. It's only new that men are ruling Earth. And it's not to say that we should rule and they should rule. No, but it's not that they should dominate.
Right.
You know, there's no such thing as them dominating.
Yeah. There should be
and so that's why I say to women, make your own money. Everybody make their own money. Men make their own money. It doesn't matter who makes more, whatever. Everybody contributes to the amount that we make, and we just stay friendly and happy.
Yeah.
If you're smarter in selling things and you can make more and he can make less, it doesn't matter. We just put it together in a pile, you know?
And I like that, empowerment. You know, as women, we have that choice to take that power and make our dreams come true. And you don't have to sit around and wait for someone to help you. You can just do it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
The most important thing for me, and I write this about men, and I've talked about the scale of sex and the couples, is that people are, in my 50 years of dressing women and dressing the most famous, powerful women on the whole planet, what do I learn? Okay, I learned they take their clothes off and they tell me everything. They pour their lives out to me.
Of course, yep.
Oh, Miss Vicky, what can I do? Oh my God. And they're crying away and they're like married to billionaires. What can I help you? Can I tell you? And they'll pour out their hearts. Men and women are on a scale of 0 to a 10 in sexuality. Everybody's different. You're a 10, you're a 5, you're a 8, you're a 7. You can't marry more than 1 or 2 different than you. A 0 cannot marry a 10. 0 meaning you're not interested.
Yep.
There's zeros. And there's some women, they say, I can't stand doing it. I don't want anybody touching me. I just have to because I'm married.
Yep.
Find a 0.
Yeah.
Marry a 0 or 1. And you're perfectly happy. You'll end up with a baby sometime. And, you know, everybody can make a baby or not make a baby. But you're a 0, find another 0 or 1. Do not go with a 10.
Yeah.
That makes
So you have to have a long time relationship with them before. A 10 needs another 10, 8, 9, maybe. But you can't go to a 7. Even a 7 or a 5. A 10 has to be with another 10 or a 9.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing.
But,
Once you find your partnership in that area and you're both sexually compatible, at that point, you can start making plans. But a man will not, more than a woman, tell you who he is for the first year. Because they're kind of worried. We're open, we're out there, we're more fabulous. The man is a man, you got to walk around like a man. So they hide who they are.
Yep.
And they don't really give you the true picture for a year. So don't really get involved to think this is it until the year. Once the year,
Kathleen
made that mistake.
once the year happens, you'll know. Now, you can maybe luck out, but
she got lucky.
Yeah, well, I got lucky.
You were like the rare unicorn.
My first husband did not tell me for the first year. He was in the movie business. He was Elvis's makeup man, Elizabeth's makeup man. So he took me to the movies. I loved the movies. Once a week, I want to see a movie. After the first year, he said, you know what? I hate movies. What? He never took me again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the whole first year he was taking me.
Light switch to flip.
Yeah,
That's
I really hated it. I
cruel.
just did it for, so I learned that, and I was a 20-year-old with him, and he was a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
So now I'm with a 15-year younger. I do better.
Yeah.
You reversed.
One generation less.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Oh, how fun. Yeah, I hate movies. That's hilarious.
I hate movies. I just make them, but I'm not going to go waste my time seeing them. I'm doing them all day long. So there was the first year was not the real person. So I recommend that do not make a major decision until the first year is up. You know, with a couple. I have that in the book. I have the Absolute Woman talks about all the things you need to do to be happy. And I have Vicky's list of no-nos.
Yes, give us some no-nos.
I always say there are 3 ways to tell if a man is in love. He wants to spend time with you, he wants to spend his money on you, and he wants to have sex with you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Those
What
are
else
the
do you
3
need to
ways.
know?
If you get 2 out of 3, it's great.
And if you get all 3, then you win at life.
Right. Then I have the list of the no-nos, the things that are really horrible. And I think that one of the most horrible is gambling. Gambling.
Yeah.
If a person hits you, No man should ever hit a woman.
Never.
And gambling. And I think addiction, and we have so much addiction today that we have to be careful. And there's a difference between social and addiction. And today, the medicines, these medicines, I think that the number one thing I was told, the number one addiction today are these pills.
Yeah.
Really?
The pain pills. Yeah. The number one addiction is pain pills. And so, raiding their closets to see, what they really are. There's a lot of information about having a happy couple, and I recommend that people marry, that they have children, that they spend time with somebody, that they have a best friend, and that they find someone that they truly love. And I list places where you find men.
I know your book is so great for single advice, where to find a man.
Where to find a man. And I really tell women too, I was telling your husband when we walked in, the number one place to finding a man to me is Pensacola Airport. It's right near where I live. It's a military base, a huge military base. You just get all dressed up and you sit in a chair. You don't have to take a plane anywhere. Have cards.
Just get past security.
Go into the different cafes there. There's, I think, at least 500,000 military men there.
Brilliant.
And all the whole coast. And they of all ages, generals, commanders, whatever, flying planes everywhere, and they all beautifully dressed. And my husband's a Marine, and I have to tell you that you cannot imagine how he makes our beds. They have a special corner. He's
beautiful.
Folding them in special ways. All his hangers are hanging in the same direction, and the spaces between his clothing is hung.
Which probably makes you so happy.
Each one has like a half an inch in between. And his kitchen is always
organized,
because the military has made them, in such a way. But that's a great place. The second best place is Alaska.
Okay.
Yes, you must never meet a man in a bar.
No.
Zero.
Okay.
If a man wants to meet you and you're on the internet dating, do not ever meet a man in a bar. Meet him in a cafe in the morning.
Oh, in the morning.
Yes, in the morning. Meet him for breakfast to have a cafe early in the morning, and some place that you see who they are. Really, first thing in the morning, fresh on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, are they rolling out of bed?
What's
their attitude in the morning?
Exactly.
Are they
First thing
Are
in
they
a coffee,
happy?
in a test, in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Do not ever meet a man in a bar. Ever.
That's a good tip.
Me, the first date with my husband in a bar. 11 cocktails in Paris from the makeup man, Elvis's makeup man. And I was 20.
Well,
and
yeah,
really,
how can you say no to that?
I didn't know, but now I'm not 20 anymore. I'm 75.
Yes.
I've learned in those years. Do not,
Doesn't work out.
I married a severe drinker, and 11 drinks, and I had 11 drinks with him. And I'm,
Yeah, we have to go.
Everything seems rosy and great after 11 drinks. You're like, he's the love of my life. He's the winner.
Exactly.
He wants to hang out with me.
Exactly. So the book will talk about where places to meet men and sporting, gyms.
Yeah.
I have a great story in here. A girlfriend had been with a man for 5 years and he had not asked to marry. She was divorced and she was dating this man and she said, if you don't marry me by Christmas, that's it. And he said, oh, and he was a very wealthy man, very, very wealthy. Maybe that was a question. I don't know. And this was a second marriage for both. He didn't. She goes to a gym in L.A. She meets a lawyer whose wife had just passed away. She fell madly in love with the lawyer. And she talked to the man who's her love, the love of her life. She said, how do you feel? It's November now, and December's coming up, and if it's Christmas, I'm leaving you. And he said, no, I don't know. She said, okay. And she married, in December, she married the lawyer that she met at the gym.
Wow.
In 3 months, she married the lawyer. They're very happy. They have a condo in Wilshire Boulevard.
Oh, she's a unicorn too. She didn't wait a year.
I went to house guest with her. I said, what happened to the guy? She said, oh, he was devastated. He couldn't believe it. He flew her children out to L.A. to the Beverly Hills Hotel to meet with them and beg them to ask their mother to not go through with the marriage.
Oh. Well, he should have known. If you know, you know.
And if you say, I don't know, a month before you're supposed to get married, then you aren't supposed to get married.
Unbelievable. And she's very happily married to the man and in a gym. So gyms, sporting places, baseball games, basketball games. I've gone to stadiums in New York, and there's a basketball stadium, and you just move all around the seats until you see a cute guy, move here and connect and go by yourself with a cute outfit on. Right.
Oh my God, fantastic.
This meeting men online, it's okay. It could be okay, but they're Madison Square Garden. I mean, they're all in there. Thousands of them.
That's true.
So I like to see them in person. I like to see them in person, but I know that the 20 or 30% of the women today are meeting men online. The other thing that's interesting is a stat in here: 38% of the women today are making more money than the men.
38%.
38% in America.
Wow.
Go women.
That's better than I would have guessed.
Yes.
You didn't know the stat?
No, I didn't.
know.
No, 38% of women.
I have no memory for numbers.
Oh, okay. 38%, that's huge.
Yeah, it's
Now, it was in 1971, it was 20%. So from 1971 to 38, 21 and 38, it's almost double.
Yeah.
So since the 70s, we've had a long time before that where women were not doing anything.
Right.
So very quickly, we're going boom like that. And it'll be 50 very soon.
I think so.
Very, very soon. We'll be equal, and it'll be a whole new ball game. How do we deal with it? We're making more money than them. Well, I've done that all my life.
I was going to have that question for you. When you were living in Paris and you were married and your career was taking you to all these parties and luxurious events and probably traveling a lot, how did that impact your marriage? How did you stay firm and this is my passion, this is my life? And did it impact your marriage at all? Do you have any advice for women?
It did not impact my marriage. I married somebody who was already in the movie business. He was traveling around. He had the same life. So I have two types of couples. And there's two types of couples. This is a very important point in my book, The Absolute Woman. Side-by-siders and piggybackers. Side-by-siders and piggybackers. I married two side-by-siders.
Perfect.
They're living their life. I'm living my life. We're side-by-siders. My mother and my stepfather were married for 50, 60 years. They never were apart a day.
Oh.
Piggybackers.
Oh, yep.
Piggybackers. And when my mom died, my dad died. They died together within 6 months of each other.
Oh, wow.
So you see the piggybacker, they couldn't live without each other. My husband and I see each other. Hey, how you doing? I'm off. Where you going now, babe? And I'm saying, oh.
Yeah, see you next week.
That's side-by-siders.
Okay.
So there's two types.
Yep.
Do not mix.
Okay.
Make sure
Do
you're
not
both
marry
on
a
the same.
piggybacker if you're a side-by-sider.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another point in
That's
this.
huge. I love that.
Yeah.
I know you've really boiled relationships down to so many very
It
brilliant
makes sense.
checklists.
Yeah.
And not I want my man to have this or this, but real compatibility.
I have to tell you, I've dressed women. My career was in my shop in Paris, but in 1982, I was hired by Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman to open a couture store in Bergdorf, my own Vicky Tiel haute couture store, and then traveled Neiman Marcus, 21 Neiman Marcuses.
Wow.
My children are not the best with this. I hardly saw anybody, but I was flown to America 4 times a year, and I had no clue which Neiman's I would go to. They'd have the list, and I'd do generally the same cities. I didn't do Boston. I didn't do Chicago, sometimes San Francisco, but I basically was in Texas, in Florida, in California, and Bergdorf's in New York. And I'd go back to these cities all around the United States. Florida, in Miami alone, there were 5 Neiman Marcuses that I did. Because the Latino women would fly up, and that's where they shopped.
Okay.
So all of Brazil, all the Latin countries,
that's cool.
we did not sell French couture there.
Yeah.
And I would make their wedding dresses, their bride dresses, their all of the gowns.
Yeah.
Especially the Bal Harbour. So I toured for Neiman Marcus, and I had a dress that I made, and it's talked about in many places, the Pretty Woman dress. The Pretty Woman dress is the red dress that Julia Roberts wore in the movie. That's my dress. That was the most longest selling dress in the history of Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman. 32 straight years I've been selling that dress.
That's a long time. That's like
Yeah.
a staple, like a fashion staple.
It's still selling.
I was going to say, still selling.
Oh, yeah, it's still selling.
Yeah.
In my book party that I had in Palm Beach, I made a dress, the Pretty Woman dress, for the woman who hosted the party.
Oh,
cool.
So
Lucky
in
woman.
red. And that dress has just been, basically my claim to fame is that I made it. And that's what I call timeless fashion. So if you're out there designing fashion, ladies or men, and you want to be a fashion designer, you cannot make things that are weird and crazy and you can't wear. It's okay for a publicity shot, but that's not going to keep you in business. Keeping in business is making something women put on. They look good.
Yeah, they feel good.
They feel good and they look beautiful. And that's a hard thing to do. And so I managed to accomplish that and that's probably why I'm the longest designer in France now, is that I've made timeless fashion. Timeless.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Very flattering, very feminine.
Yeah.
I know, I love that.
Okay, so while we're on the relationship topic, you had mentioned in your book at age 43, you had a turning point when you kind of reassessed your happiness and your current situation. Talk about that.
Yes. Well, going up at 20 and being with Elizabeth Taylor for 20 some years and traveling the country to all the different movies that I would be in and worked in, and then joined my husband in the movies he was shooting with her, was traveling a lot and partying a lot. And my children were being brought up at home with the nannies. As a matter of fact, my one son was so spoiled, he said, "I'm not sharing my nanny with my brother. I want my own nanny." So each boy had their own nanny.
Oh my goodness, they got it.
Oh yeah. They're still spoiled, but
Just grown versions of it.
but I tried to travel all the time between the movies. When you do the costumes of a movie, you're not there on the set every day. There's a person that's going to do that, but you have to design them, make sure the fit is good, and then you move on. So I would fly to the set and see the costumes of my film, and then fly and see my husband and his film. I was 20 when I married Ron, and he was the great Hollywood makeup man. Very handsome. It had been with Elizabeth since they were both 16 and 17 at MGM.
Oh, wow.
And his father was an MGM in set decor. So I married him, and he was with Elvis for many of Elvis's movies. So the whole little world of superstars. And to be in that group was fun, but I was still a businessman. I'm still going home and running my company. So I had to keep my head on straight. And how do you keep your head on straight when you're flying around, you're going to parties and everything? Well, I had very strict rules. And my strict rules were, I'll party until 11:30 or 12, but I'm always home. I'm always going to sleep. I don't stay up all night. I don't go crazy except on Friday and Saturday night when my shop's closed and the next day. I'm very, very serious about business. I like to party, but I'm in control of what I'm doing. I'm always still a businessman, always still never losing it. I'm never out of control. I'm always on top of my business. If you're going to run a company, you have to be a businessman. You have to be a businessman. Now, my husband was Hollywood Ron, the makeup man. He didn't have to run a business. He would maybe stay out with the guys and sit around and talk or carry on.
As long as he could do his craft in the morning.
As long as his hands were operating.
But I ran a business. I had generally 25 to 27 employees. Generally, there were 25 ladies that worked for me and sewed, and their lives depended on me. So it's not a lot. It's not thousands like the guys today. But those 25 French women are there every week, depending on me to be able to bid. So
I know that feeling.
I had a controlled life. However, when I ended up, when Richard Burton died and Elizabeth went back to California, I lost my best friend. I lost the travel companion. I lost the party friend. And my husband lost his best friend, Richard Burton. He died in 1984. My husband had a shoot and fall. He lost everything. Elizabeth stopped working, Richard died, and what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And we broke up.
Yeah.
We broke up. We had children. He had previous marriages before me, and he had another wife or two after me, but it was a break, a severe parting of the ways. What did I do? Did I lie around and cry? Did I complain?
Yeah.
No, I went to Egypt and I meditated with my children.
Wow.
And I had a divorce celebration.
Okay.
No crying. This lady did not cry. No, took the kids and I said, where are we going to celebrate? Mommy and Daddy are divorcing. Where are we going to do? And they said, Egypt. We want to ride camels. We want to see the pyramids. I said, okay, celebration. And we went and we celebrated. And I meditated. I love to meditate. I've always meditated, and since I'm a child, love to sit and meditate and pray for good things to happen. I love a sunrise ceremony.
Yes.
I get up every morning and I watch the sun come up. My whole life, sunrise, watch the sun come up and pray and thank God for everything and ask for what I need. I always do that every morning practically, especially on the farm. So I'm in Egypt and I'm at the pyramids, and I go inside the pyramids, and the kids were all riding around in camels. We were there a week, and I was completely opened up. I found bottles and colors to make my new perfume. I decided, this marriage is ending, but what's new? What can I do now? I'm going to make perfume based on being in Egypt and the colors I've seen in Egypt and the bottles I've seen in Egyptian glass. And I went and I made perfume.
And that was a first for you. You'd never been in that market before.
Never thought about it in Egypt. When something ends, celebrate and have a turning point and recreate and bloom.
That's
and so
beautiful.
I did. I'm not a crybaby.
I know, I can tell.
I'm not a crybaby.
I can tell. So when you have so much to like be grateful for, that's like what you're doing every day is being so
I'm not
grateful.
a crybaby. Life is too short and too beautiful to be a crybaby for me to be unhappy about the end.
Yeah.
We were together 21 years and we had 2 beautiful children, and I kept the children. And what I do too, because I'm a businessman, is I told him, I'll always take care of my boys. I'll always look after everything, and I'll send them to you whenever you want. I'll fly them to California. I don't want you to pay me a thing.
I love it.
I'm not
for
taking
you.
a penny from anybody.
No.
Yeah.
I'll just sell more dresses.
Yeah. It's like we had a life together. We're going different ways.
Right.
That's the
And I
end.
wish you the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. He went on to have 2 more wives, and I tried to be friends, and I called us the Ron's Wives Club.
Perfect.
Well, why not?
gotta have
Nothing against that,
And I was
right?
very friendly with most of them. I sent them perfume, and we'd always take pictures, and I was like the leader of the Ron's Wives Club. He was an amazing, handsome man and a super makeup man. But I'd had enough of Hollywood and that world. And even though I dressed them, continue to dress them in Bergdorf Goodman and in my shop in Paris, I personally wanted to be as I was growing older, I wanted to be younger.
Yeah.
I wanted to be younger, and I wanted to live a different life. And the meditation and the connection to nature and the happiness I got from nature, I had to get that. I had to live more nature, walk barefoot in the sand, walk barefoot in the grass. And so I learned to do that. And when I set my mind up to find another husband, I found him in 3 weeks.
Whoa.
What?
The girl is on a mission.
3 weeks. Yep.
Well, that goes into our manifestation
3 weeks.
philosophies.
Yeah. I was
awesome.
told to go to the fish docks in Key West, that there were lots of men there because my girlfriend's husband was a book writer, and he said, you can't go through any more Hollywood. You just got to get away from that. Go to somebody natural. There's a whole bunch of men down on the dock in the morning in Key West. They're all loading up their boats, and they're
morning men like
morning
you.
men.
Like you. Morning
Loading
person.
up their boats and getting ready and hiring people, getting the people to go on the boat all day long. And Key West is a great place. Go down there and get a guy. So I did, and that's my husband.
Found one.
Nailed it.
She went fishing for a man and caught a fisherman.
Nailed it. I love that.
So elaborate more on how you create happiness. I know you're big on that. You're
Yes.
not sitting around and waiting for happiness to find you, but
Yes.
building it yourself. So
Yes.
how do you do that?
Well, there's something in the fact that I don't know if you're born happy or you're not. My mother was not a happy person. I don't know if it's genetic. My grandmother was a happy person. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I've never been unhappy. I
Really?
can stay unhappy for a few minutes. I get hit by something or whatever, but I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I'm always thinking about, and here's another thing too. My husband tells me this all the time. He's got a very high brain. He's a real high thinker, and he has a high IQ, and he can understand how to make this work and build houses and read a list and make it happen. And I have no brains like that. I don't focus on anything. There's nothing here. It's just floating around going,
Very creative.
yeah.
And
Yeah, there's not a lot there. If you say something that might offend me or whatever, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't really sit in there. So it just bounces off. And I've been that way all my life. I'll never forget this story. I was trying out when I was in high school, junior high school. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I had studied ballet. And they told me, you can't ever make it as a cheerleader. It's just never going to happen. The school's got thousands of people and whatever. And so I was 11 or 12 years old to get in the junior high cheerleading, and I had just started my period. And I was in a little white skirt.
Oh, no.
Would you believe the blood is all over the back of the skirt the day of the tryouts? And there's nothing to do. The little white skirt, the little white sweater, and I'm going to be doing flips and things like that. And the whole back is blood. What am I going to do? And so I just said, okay, I'm going to just flip plaster. I'm just...
Genius.
I'm not going to stay still for a second. I'm just going to be flipping and flipping and moving and flipping. And I flipped faster and I got to be the cheerleader. And
no way.
Yeah. They were telling me, I was in the bathroom and girls were all talking. I've told this story just maybe, I don't know if I've told you this. They're all the girls, I'm in the toilet and I'm there and I'm trying to get the red out and doing whatever. And these girls are at the sink and they said, "You believe her? She's trying to be a cheerleader."
And you can hear them.
No, her breasts are too, I have big breasts already. Yeah. She's already got big breasts and everything. And I think she's bleeding in the back. Oh my God, she's so ugly. She's just never going to be. These two girls are talking about it.
Those are horrible things.
Yeah. And so I come out of the toilet and they're there at the sink. And I just go, what do? Roll my eyes. Smile. Hi. And never paid attention. I never mentioned it to them again. Always friendly. Hey, sweetheart. And how are you?
Good for you.
I do not dance with anything that,
Any
I'm just
negativity?
not going to be. No, just always try to be happy.
Yeah.
And this is what I recommend. And I tell my children, my son and his wife and all these people in my family, and they all just don't, it's hard to convince people to try to stay happy all the time. Mm-hmm. But that's just how I am. I'm not going to be upset, There's awesome. Things you can't do. There's things your car breaks down, the plane breaks down, the things, things don't work out. Just, okay.
Embrace it and just move on.
No, just don't even think about it. Just think about being happy. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, I got a really good book to read.
Yeah.
I have a really great dinner tonight.
Yeah.
So
look for the positives.
Be positive. And the other thing about life about happiness is that you are what you eat. I have 5 chapters in my book, The Absolute Woman, on my diet. Mm-hmm. I've never been sick. I have nothing wrong. I'm 75, and I tell this on television when I sell my products. I say, I'm 75. I've never been sick. Read my book and read my diet. And what's important in my diet is I do not drink any kind of products. I only drink, even if it was the years I drank champagne, it's a good product. Mm-hmm. I don't drink products like Coca-Cola, diet drinks, Snapple, all these things, even juices that are products that like are made in fact. I only drink tea and coffee.
And water.
And that's it. Yeah. I don't drink wine because I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Because you stopped drinking champagne when you were 50?
Yeah, 50. I have 25 years without any drugs, alcohol, and I don't take a drug. I don't take anything. I don't do anything.
You're just the epitome of health.
Yeah.
But, okay, you were telling me that Mandi and I have to stop drinking champagne when we're 50.
About 50.
That's okay.
No.
Yeah, I was like, we still have some few good years.
It's fine in minimum quantities, not ever more than 1 drink a day, 1 glass of anything a day. Never more than that. Mm-hmm. 1 glass a day.
Let's hear, October, November, December, January.
Right.
Almost 5 months without any alcohol.
That's true.
Without even a sip. 5 months.
Yeah.
That is true.
A tremendous weight loss too, but in France, the French, we'd have a glass with dinner at night, 1 glass. Mm. That's 7 glasses a week. That's okay. But now today, forget that. Everyone's taking all kinds of medicines. You see a doctor and he gives you this and he gives you that and he gives you this. Well, my daughter-in-law's mother, she was given statins and it gave her Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah, it's crazy what
the statins for her cholesterol. And so I believe in no drugs whatsoever. I believe in eating fresh fruits and 5 to 7 red, purple vegetables a day and the minimum amount of white. So red to purple and blue, 4 to 5 to 7. If you can do 7 a day in the color of red and purple, they deoxidize and they kill cancer in your body. The colors of red and purple.
It's like beets and cranberries,
cranberries,
strawberries,
blueberries, and red lettuce. If you're going to eat the lettuce, the purple lettuce,
cabbage,
and everything that you can have that's and strawberries, everything you can have like that, 5 to 7 a day, except for red steak. In France, we have a steak that's different. In America, they inject the steak with something, so I do not believe in eating any steak.
Yeah, red meat is terrible.
Do not eat red meat. But that's people. My husband, he eats red meat. I can't, it's...
I know, once people are hooked on it, they're pretty much red meaters for life, but...
I was such a red meat girl. Like,
really?
I was born and raised in Wisconsin, like that's all we ate. And now with like my health journey right now, I haven't touched any beef or meat, like red meat in 3 months. And I feel so much better, like digestively, and like skin health, and you're glowing. Like I'm like, whoa, it's just that one thing,
Yeah.
In Bergdorf, when I'm making dresses for women, I'm making skin tight dresses.
Yeah.
And I see the woman and she's got a normal bust, a normal waist, and it goes out like that. And it goes out huge right back there. Well, they're injecting the cow all the time to make that part of the animal bigger.
Yeah.
And that's in the bigger, and the women who have that, also the diet drinks are bringing up, I don't want to get you sued or anything, but the diet drinks are making them puff up.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
They're terrible.
Puffs it up.
Absolutely. The aspartame and all that.
All that just puffs it up. So to be healthy and normal, you cannot eat things that are products.
Yeah.
You have to eat natural foods.
Absolutely. We're such believers in that. And then when you do have health issues that come up, look to the earth, right? Find the herbs and the natural remedies that were given to us by Mother Nature.
Now, there's a lady I write about in my first book. She had a big party pretending it was her 90th birthday. She had a castle in France, and she was Coco Chanel's best friend. Her 90th party was really her 100th, and she lived to be 103, Amy de Heron. And she told me that, I said, how did you live to be this long, Amy? And she's thinking, 90, and she was 100. She said, every afternoon I have fresh ginger tea. Fresh ginger. You chop your ginger up, and you make a tea out of it, and every day, and she's never sick.
Ginger is one of the best.
Yeah, they say it brings up your heat, like in Ayurvedic medicine. It brings in the heat, the life force, and gives you that vitality.
So, even if I'm having a mint tea or a chamomile tea, I'll throw a slice of the ginger in my tea in the afternoon.
And that's very popular in Europe. My family lives in Germany, and they put ginger in everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I learned from like a young kid.
Yes. So Amy de Heron, she had the ginger tea, and I made a gown for her, and she danced all night. And she was pretending to be 90. Took the whole castle in Biarritz, and she made the castle her party with balloons and things everywhere, indoor, outdoor. And she's dancing all night with all these gorgeous men, and she's 100.
That's amazing.
I just love that.
Lying about her age. She's not 90.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So I have got to ask, I got the notes from Kathleen, and you please elaborate on this. It says meditating to orgasm.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about this. Like, as soon as I read that, I'm like, wait, what is going on? Share the details, sister.
Okay. Well, there's a third eye, many books on this, third eye meditation. So we have... in Kundalini yoga, if you all do Kundalini yoga, you have the 2 eyes here and the third eye in here. And I really recommend studying that. You close your eyes, and in the center, you're going to see the third eye, and it's a blue light, and it's a hole. It goes actually into like a tunnel. Boom, and boom, yeah. It goes into a deep, deep tunnel, like a subway. You picture it, but it's blue. It goes deep, deep, deep. So if you are having sex and you relax and relax and relax, and then you're going to go into the third eye.
Yep.
And while you're having your sex with your husband or whatever, your lover, you're going to lose everything, not feel anything, don't feel about your body, don't focus on that, just focus on the third eye. And you can focus on it. It's blue, it's getting bluer, it's getting bluer. I'm actually seeing the blue, bluer and bluer and deeper, and the hole goes
Yes, like a laser.
Like you're in a subway, in the laser in the subway. And then you're actually building up your orgasm, which is down here, but the orgasm doesn't come down here. You orgasm up here. I have never, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
You don't feel it in your groin.
You're right.
You feel it in here. You just go explode through that space.
Like a mind.
Yeah.
Is that way more intense than any orgasm
Yes.
you had before ever doing that?
Yes.
That's so
I
cool.
can't even
We could do more
imagine.
research on this, Kathleen.
Yes, third eye meditation, and there are many, many books on third eye meditation, and the Kundalini yoga. There's many books on that too.
Yeah.
So
A lot of practices and meditations.
there's books on all of these subjects that
Yeah.
that you go. Now, I do my third eye meditation many places, especially in the river, like I was talking about meditating in the river. I have meditation spots. I'm too old now at 75 to do this position.
Yeah.
And do that.
Where you
But you
cross
have
your
to
legs.
block. You have to block your energy. Always block your energy.
When you meditate.
When you
So just-
meditate, you have to block and do this, like the eye, like your third eye. You're
But
meditating.
do you keep your palms face up?
Oh, here on my knee.
So you take
so
your,
rest-
for
I
those that
always
are listening, you
meditate.
take your thumb with your pointer finger and your middle finger
Leave these hanging there.
and leave your pinkies up.
And I'm making it the third eye, actually. I'm leaving it
Perfect,
here and I'm blocking my energy. And then you breathe and you're reading. If you buy books on this, ladies, and you men, and you're going to
Practice.
study the meditation, you're going to have your energy's going to go in a thing like this, in through here, and you're blocked inside your body. You're just going around and around and around. What you're doing is pulling yourself into another place. You're leaving who you are in here, and you're becoming in here. You're all in here. I can't explain it, but it's just so different, and you're lost. You don't want to have a thing stick. So a thought and this is also helping to not be upset with anybody. I've been meditating since I'm a child. I started at 8 or 9, 10 years old. Been a little girl meditating.
Was a huge advantage on everyone.
Yeah, we started the hippie movement. My little group of people in Washington, New York, Paris, London, the kids of 1958, 59, 60 were the original hippies. We all kind of started the hippie movement and being Buddhists and, following guys that play drums and singing
Walking around
weird, walking
naked.
around naked and dancing and turning. So this group of people, we started meditating as children and have our whole life of that and nothing else, singing Indian songs and believing in Indian things and stuff like that. So it's hard to explain, but there are so many books out today on the meditation and on leaving you're not thinking anymore. You're just relaxing, and that is what you're doing. So the thought doesn't stay. If you say something to me, I'll say, "Hello, Vicky, how are you?" It goes right out. Nothing sticks. And my husband, and we talk about it, he's always saying, "Oh my God." And he's thinking and staying in there.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He's like, I told you yesterday.
Yeah. And nothing's staying in here. It's just coming in and going out the other ear.
Well, it's how you stay happy. So it's
Yeah.
got to be that way.
Yeah. And that's what you learn in Kundalini yoga, to not focus and not maintain or retain anything. Just in and out, in and out.
And I think that's probably was so vital to your success, because I'm sure that people who are in a creative space, so if you have a career where you're creating something, like artists, fashion designers, makeup artists, where you're putting your heart and soul into something that you create, and then there's a lot of room for criticism. People can judge it, people can put it down, and you take it almost personal because it is your love and your creation. So when you started, did you get criticism, and how did you handle that? I think that's such a huge
The teacher
lesson for
told
younger.
me we have no future. I can't even recommend you. My
Right.
teacher at school. Well, I did celebrate her when I had fashion shows in haute couture in Paris. I invited her finally to one, and we had a runway, and I put her in a chair at the end of the runway.
Yes.
The head of the school that told me I had no future. Yeah, I put her at the end of the runway.
And did she apologize
Yeah,
profusely?
tears were coming out. No, I didn't want an apology. She was just so pleased, and tears were coming
so
No, I
proud.
didn't do anything. I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I just thought that would be perfect. She learned to maybe not do this to other students.
So
Right.
it started when you were in school, and then I'm sure it happened throughout your career, right? Like someone would
pay
always
no
have an
attention.
opinion.
I pay no attention to anything.
I love that.
I have no concern about anything.
So that's really good advice to like the young girls coming up in the world, and
Yes.
you know,
Good
if-
advice to me. I need to implement that more in my own life.
Someone has an
Yes, yeah.
opinion or they don't like what you're doing, move on because someone else will. Their one opinion.
All I know is the one girl who was the students, they loved her and they gave her the prize, the Norman Norell prize, and this prize and that prize, and she committed suicide.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like-
It's very
Couture.
hard to have a career in fashion, and maybe 10 years, 8 years, it's very hard to be an actress. And you have a 10-year, 20-year, 15-year career. And then what happens, To have a career for 55 years.
That's amazing.
55 years, all of it's come and gone, or what? It's only because nothing is sticking in there.
Yeah.
I promise you, it's not a good idea to have anything stick in there.
Yeah.
So meditation yoga, Kundalini yoga, and there's many books. The guru that we had is Guru Mai, Siddha Yoga, and many of her books are available online. And they made a movie, Eat, Pray, Love, about
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Guru Mai and Siddha
Love
Yoga.
it.
And so her books are the ones I recommend
Okay.
for people to read. But happiness is taught by many different cultures and many different people. And, everybody who teaches happiness, they're on the right path. Because we have one life to live on planet Earth. We don't know what we're doing next. And the only important thing is to live every day to the fullest. And what was it? Dead yesterday, unborn tomorrow. Why fret if today be sweet? As Omar Khayyam.
Yeah.
Dead
like
yesterday, unborn tomorrow. Why fret if today be sweet?
Yeah.
I like
If
that.
you're not really alive, then why worry about it?
Dead yesterday,
Yeah. It's
unborn
so
tomorrow.
Oh, that's perfect.
I like that. So you keep referencing your book. So how about, could you share with us kind of your first book and just give us a little summary for those who want to get that, and then your second book, and then talk about your third book and what we can expect.
The first book, it's all about the dress. Was written 10 years ago. I had decided to work on Home Shopping Network 10 years ago, and I wanted to introduce myself to the world in America who'd never known me. Haute Couture and Bergdorf Goodman, how many people? Maybe the 1% of 1% knew Vicky Tiel. I had a perfume that was out, but also it was very, very expensive and sold in the most expensive stores. And I thought, I want to be with mass. I have to change. Home Shopping Network invited me, and I left Haute Couture, and I started working on television, making clothes for $100 instead of $5,000 to $10,000. It was a big difference,
Yeah.
$100 to $5,000 to $10,000. I had never done $100, and so I enjoyed it. My perfume at $35 and $40 instead of $315. My perfume launched at $315. The perfume with the bottles that were inspired by
Egypt. Yeah.
and now I'm making perfume, and you can get a twofer this week.
Yes.
And for $45, you're going to get 2 bottles of BOGO
One for
and a
Mandy, one
tote.
for
And a
Kathleen.
tote
I like
bag.
a deal.
So It's All About the Dress was a book to launch me on TV. It came out on the Home Shopping Network and in the bookstores. And it said, it's all about the dress. This is the new designer. My book did well. And my Home Shopping Network, now I'm in my 9th year
Wow.
of selling on television. So then I wrote a new book. My first book was a memoir about my life, who I am, what I did to introduce me to the American public. And this second book is not a memoir, it's lessons, life lessons from the famous. And
I know you mentioned everyone in there, almost everyone you've styled.
Yes.
Elizabeth Taylor, Coco Chanel.
yes, the
I
book is
browsed through it in like 2 minutes real quick before this interview, and I feel like I learned so much in those 2 minutes. I could have sat there and read the whole thing.
right. This is Sarah Jessica Parker, Jane Birkin from Paris. I have here's my river. There's even always turn a bad thing into a good thing, and I have a photo of my river that I meditate in here, and you can always turn a bad kisser into a good one.
Oh, good to
Laura
know.
Prepple. I don't. I have all kinds of things. Halle Berry. The man for me is the cherry in the pie, but I am the pie, and my pie is good all by itself, even if I don't have a cherry. Halle Berry. So I have quotes from some of the people, and I have a drawing of Halle Berry in my dress.
I know. That's another awesome thing about your book, is you have sketches that you sketched when you were styling all these women.
Yes.
So yeah, the book is awesome.
Yes, it's a really wonderful book. So this is all lessons, life lessons, and a book of advice.
It's great.
Then my new book that I'm working now, my first book took me 2 years to write. My second book took me 6 months. This book only took 6 months to write.
Wow.
I really came out fast, but I worked day and night and never left writing. The third book, 2 months.
2 months?
I've done it here while I'm in this trip in.
Is it done already?
Done.
Oh, yay.
Delivered. Done. And this book is called 100 Women, and it's a coffee table book of large sketches of all of the women I dressed, and a story about them on the side, but this is a very special, unique story that nobody ever would imagine about each person.
That's awesome.
And so really interesting facts about the 100 royalty, high society, singers. I have Whitney and Oprah, Aretha Franklin. I did the Kennedy Center ball dress for her. So I have an Aretha Franklin story nobody could imagine.
I can't wait.
I mean, like you said,
wait. I want the details.
Yeah.
Like you said, when they're stripped down to get measured for a gown, they tell you all their deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
Well, there's just even more than that. Like Aretha, she ordered the Kennedy Center ball gown, and she lives in Detroit, and she'd come to New York by car, and we had to make the dress in Paris, and she demanded that the sewer, when she paid for it, the sewer had to fly to Michigan to spit it on her.
Oh.
So the Paris sewer had never been a plane, let alone she's going to fly to Michigan.
No. Michigan.
And so to save Aretha from coming back by car, Aretha did not fly. So the story in the book is that my sewer said, oh, I can't wait to go to Michigan. Oh, my God. And she goes to Aretha's house, fits the dress, and then Aretha says, do you want to have a good sandwich? And she takes my sewer, this French girl, doesn't speak English, into the kitchen. And she said to me, Madame, she says, she made me the biggest, wettest sandwich. And the two of us ate the sandwich over the sink. Aretha Franklin's made a giant wet sandwich. My sewer in France has never eaten like this. And she's eating a wet sandwich with Aretha Franklin in the kitchen. And she's going to get on a plane and fly back to Paris.
That's hilarious.
That is not how the Parisians eat.
Stories like that are in the book. Special. You can see how Aretha is such a different person.
Yeah.
Who would do that?
Well, I'm looking forward to that book.
That makes me feel better about having mismatched glasses.
Yeah.
Giving you guys water in weird cups. Oh my goodness. What a fun story. So yeah, that coffee table book will be awesome.
The coffee table book is going to be really, really fun. And I'm hoping to make art to go with it so that all of the drawings, like the Aretha Franklin drawing is spectacular. The ball gown for the Kennedy Center with the shawl. And it was on TV when she passed. They showed her many times with the dress that we had made. So the sketches, I want to be able to make them into wall art. Oh. And you'll be able to have, of the 100 women, you'll be able to have your favorite actresses, and you'll buy them for like nothing, $50 framed, and you hang them on your wall, and you have wall art of all your favorite people.
Yes, I love that.
That's beautiful.
So I'm hoping to have a new business of art.
Yeah.
Because these are my dresses and my actresses. And
yes.
Cool.
I own the right. I mean, it's my sketches. So I should be able to have that. No one's ever done this before.
Yeah, that's just another avenue for you.
Well,
and an avenue for us to get your beautiful creation.
Yes. I'd like to make big ones too, that they're maybe 2 feet across and 4 feet down, big, huge wall art that they could sell. And because you'll make thousands and thousands of them, you'll be able to sell them at very, very under $100.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. At 75, you can do anything still, right?
Yes, everybody. We all can.
And you should.
We all can. We eat well. We live well. We stay happy. We can all live to be 110, 120. Our your generation, 120 is definite.
Yeah.
As
Yes,
long as we stay
120.
vigilant about our health. And
120. And then you're going to have your kids and they're all going to go in rockets to other places.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like,
Your
bye,
kids-
Mom, going to Venus.
You're going on rockets everywhere.
I'll be home for dinner.
Mercury's in retrograde. I'm going to go check it out.
Your generation, we don't even know what you're going to,
I know.
what you're going to live life and what is
Insane.
going to happen.
A lot.
It's
So-
wild. Can't even fathom.
No, we've gone so fast in my time
Yeah.
to go from little tiny TVs and whatever to the
Yeah, a
a
computers
little tiny
and
phone in your hand.
the texting and all this stuff that you're all doing. I mean, and that's just in a little short period of time from 35,000 BC, all those years to get to now. And then it's just,
Acceleration.
and you're all going to be on other planets. So actually nothing is important anymore. The only thing important is to stay happy and live as long as you can so you can see what's next. You know,
love that.
there may be even a way that they're going to freeze you. And
Yeah, you never
That you
know.
never
can
Probably.
tell. You know, and you're gonna frozen.
We'll wake
and
you up when
sent
we can live on Mars.
Sent somewhere.
Oh, I love that. So before we have your final thoughts, sometimes with our guests, we ask them random questions. So I want to ask this one because I think it's going to be good. What is the weirdest or most random thing you have in your purse?
In my purse, weird.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Emptiness.
Nothing weird and random in my purse. No, there's nothing. It really is the most nothing in my purse there is.
Very simple.
No, my purse has nothing in it. The minimum amount of anything. What is weird is I have some cash in my purse.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have a couple $100 bills because I was selling books the other day. But no, I have nothing.
Interesting.
I'm very minimal.
Yeah,
I have
another
a
key to her
bottle of
happiness.
I was going to
perfume.
say, I love
I
that.
have nothing. I have a lipstick. I have cards, greeting cards, and I have my telephone. I have 3 things in my purse.
That's awesome. That is weird because most people like me carry this huge thing around with everything I could possibly need, and it's so unnecessary. Like, I'm going to be back home in 2 hours.
Gotta pack everything.
I do.
Totally simple.
I love that.
Minimalism for the win.
Yep. Another lesson from the podcast. Minimalism is amazing. So let's hear your final thoughts. Any last tips that you want to give, advice, wisdom?
Hold on. Let me just see what. Open up to
course.
what? Chickens and couture. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is an interesting line. Okay. Life doesn't have to be just one thing. That's the last line of this. I'm talking about having be a couturier and also being the mommy of all my chickens. And when I go and see them and they say, I visit them, they yell cock-a-doodle-doo to their mom. I do what makes me happy. I dressed Jill Biden for the presidential inauguration, and I dressed Ivana and Melania in pink to match Donald's ties. I dress whomever wants to buy my gowns so I can now dress up for my chickens. Life doesn't have to be just one thing.
Oh, that's the perfect.
Wheatgrass and champagne, chickens and couture. It's all in the balance. Well, Vicky, thank you so much for joining us today. This was amazing.
Yes, thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge. And I cannot wait to get my hands on all 3 books. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Lovely, lovely, beautiful women.
Thank you. Same to you.
So thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next week for a new topic. And remember, whether you're cleansing or celebrating, cheers!
Thank you for listening to the Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Join the Wheatgrass and Champagne community on Instagram, Facebook, and wheatgrassandchampagne.com. Details from this episode can be found in the show notes below. Tune in next Wednesday as we continue to seek the perfect balance between indulging and upgrading. Until then, cheers.